What's going on, everyone? Today we have the RTX 5070 Ti. This is the gaming OC version of the card by Gigabyte. And today we'll be pairing it with a 9800X 3D with 32 gigabytes of RAM. Alright, so we're jumping into Wukong, and we have the 5070 Ti, and this is the October 16th update. So this is the latest and greatest with all the different performance enhancements. So we're just taking a look, see how it fares after about a year and a half of updates. So it looks pretty good. You know, this is medium settings, 80 FPS or so. Medium's okay, still leaves a lot to be desired visually, but it's definitely not low. Low I don't even test because it just looks so bad. But medium, you know, runs extremely well at 4K here, no big deal at all. We're not using any upscaling and no frame generation at the moment, and ray tracing is off. We'll do ray tracing at the end, toward the later half of the video. So just use your timestamps and your black markers up there, and that'll tell you exactly what's going on as far as the settings go. So as you scrub through, you'll be able to tell easily. All right, so that is medium. Let's jump down here and go to high. So now high is a setting that I really like. It gives you a lot of detail. It gives you a lot of visual fidelity without a huge graphical hit. But as you can see, it went from 80s to about 60. So again, no upscaling. So right here, this is still a pretty good setting. I think that this game is one of those games that just requires upscaling, though. It's just one of those things that you're just not going to get away with not upscaling unless you're on like a 5090 or something. And even then, I would still upscale it just because it still looks fine. It still looks really good all the way down to performance. So we're going to check all that out today. So right here, we're still looking okay as far as FPS goes. Now, if we go up to very high, you start to get diminishing returns. So really the best thing to do is keep it on high, but we're going to go through all the different settings anyway, because that gives you a pretty dramatic performance hit for not a lot more detail. A little bit, I mean, you've got some different visual fidelity as far as like it does look a little bit more fleshed out and realistic. However, it's just not really worth the performance hit if you don't want to use DLSS. Now, if you use DLSS, you'll be able to do this. I've run this test a few times just to get my bearings as far as like what I want to talk about, but everything does look good all the way up to very high. Now, cinematic is basically very high with a filter of some sort. Like it kind of gives it this ethereal look, kind of like a blurry glow. It was like popular in photography for a long time. It's like a fake bokeh effect. As you can see, the leaves and stuff kind of have this like a little bit pumped up saturation, and things in the background have almost like this haze that's in between yourself and those objects. So really, it taxes the system a lot for what I consider a visual filter. It's not really, necessarily more detail. It just kind of makes it harder to run with a little bit of like an atmospheric kind of allure to it, I guess is the best way to put it. But, it's just not something that I'm necessarily into for the performance cost. It looks good, but it's just very, very hard to run, because right here, this is one of the better areas, is this scaffolding right here. But if we go into the areas which have, more wooded, vegetation and that kind of thing, you're going to have a lot harder time running it on this cinematic setting without any upscaling. Now, you can definitely do it without ray tracing, but upscaling plus ray tracing plus the cinematic setting, it does kind of start to run out of steam even on the 5070 Ti. But see, we're already down in the 30s over here. So, with all that said, let's just check it out and go back down to, let's do a performance upscale here. And we were on very high when we needed some upscaling. But let's go to start at high with a quality upscale and see how far we can take it. All right, so that gives us 84, 85 FPS again. Dramatic improvement from 30 for sure. Looks really good still. So you can expect about 80 in the rougher areas. I like this area over here because it tends to showcase, not a broken area, but it showcases an area that's harder to run. It's just got more stuff going on in this area than that scaffolding does. But you're right here around just shy of 90 FPS. Your VRAM, of course, is looking good. 1% lows are over 60, so everything's looking good as far as that is concerned. Our frame time graph is pretty smooth. I've got it zoomed in a little bit, so it's going to show those imperfections a little bit more dramatically. This time around, I've tweaked a little bit of my visuals over there so you can actually see when things are rough, and even when they seem smooth, I wanted to be able to show you, exactly what that frame time graph is looking like. So that is a little bit more zoomed in than normal. But anyway, I digress. Let's come in here and jump over to the very next level. Always have to fix that. Let's go to very high. All right, so very high with a quality upscale is looking like still a positive experience. We're around 70 FPS here. So everything still looks like it's running fine. We are over 60, so that's a positive sign. Our PCL is under 50 milliseconds, which is good. Anything under 50 milliseconds, I will always accept, especially on a controller. I feel like that's kind of that sweet spot of, responsiveness that you can kind of afford on a controller. Now, mouse and keyboard, you might want to be a little bit lower. All that gets super personal, but I play these types of games on a controller. Of course, water looks really good even without ray tracing. So do you necessarily need ray tracing? I don't think you do, but it does add a little bit, and we'll get to that point in the video. Again, just use those chapter markers. All right, so let's come down here to graphics, and we're going to keep that on quality, and we're going to go to cinematics. This is cinematic with quality upscale, and that does dip below 60 FPS, so you're going to have to go to performance on this. I'll show you kind of what you can expect with balanced, but it's still not quite enough, in my opinion, to really get you there. Now, again, cinematic is kind of a special case scenario, in my opinion. It's not really like it's adding a lot more detail to the scene. Again, it just gives you that like weird kind of, it's like a very light haze to the atmosphere, and I guess it gives it a little bit more depth, but it comes at a significant cost. I mean, it does really impede your FPS a good bit. So I don't like to mess with it too much, but to each their own. I wanted to show it anyway. You can really see it here. You've got that like thick fog looking stuff. All right, so, and it's just kind of like dust in the atmosphere. So I mean, it can be cool, but it is a lot of horsepower required to run that. So we're going to drop it down to, actually we're going to go up to balanced. So we're going to keep everything the same. We're just kind of seeing what it takes to get that cinematic to run well enough. Okay, so balance looks pretty promising in this area. And I wanted to make sure that we work our way down all the way to performance, especially at this cinematic setting, to ensure that you get a complete picture of what you can expect. But we are in the 50s still in some cases. So let's jump over. I'm just going to say cinematic in any way, shape, or form is going to require performance upscale. So there you go. This is barely above 60. We're not even doing ray tracing. So I would say take this and throw some frame gen on it. If you don't care about ray tracing, this would be a pretty top tier way to play it. Again, if you really want the absolute max, this is what that is. It's cinematic with performance upscale and 65 FPS. Now we're going to just jump over here and turn on some frame gen and work through that a little bit. Not that you necessarily need it, but at least show you a 2x. It definitely smooths it out a little bit. Your PCL goes to about 37, 39. We do have that low latency activated with frame generation, so it actually improves it a little bit. But yeah, we're looking at 114 FPS here, and this is a really good looking game. So if you didn't really care too much about having 60 right before frame gen, you could come up and just say, okay, I'm just gonna say frame gen is gonna be how I take care of things. It's giving you a warning, but we're gonna ignore it. Ray tracing's off. We're gonna go quality upscale cinematic. All right, and that does sharpen it up a little bit more. It's definitely a nice difference between quality and performance. However, you're not at a base 60, but your PCL is under 50. So that's really the thing that matters most. So you could run cinematic with a 2x frame gen and be fine. All right, so again, this is no ray tracing. We'll show you what 4x looks like just to kind of get a little bit more of a complete picture here. So we're going to go 4x on cinematic with a quality upscale. That gives you 172 FPS with a PCL right around 50. So this would do it right here. And as far as ghosting goes, I don't really see a lot of ghosting. Now, the lower your real FPS is, the more prone to ghosting you're going to be. because it's trying to interpolate between real frames by inserting fake frames. So the further away the real frames are, the more of that ghosting you're going to see. That's just kind of how the technology works. So if you have something above 50, closer to 60, you know, that would, you know, usually not present any significant or distracting amount of ghosting from what I've seen. And that's kind of across the board, unless the game is just really bad about it. But on this game, it's just fine. I don't see any ghosting at all. So, all right, so what we're going to do is just jump over here and see what we can expect with a high setting, because again, that's one of my favorite settings, a 2x frame gen on top of quality upscale. So this is how I would personally play it without ray tracing. I think this would be a very nice setting, and it gives you a lot of really positive PCL. So your PCL is at 33, which is super snappy. Everything feels good. Everything's nice and fluid. The frame time graph looks really good. Now it does thicken up a little bit when frame gen is enabled, but as you can see, there's not a lot of peaks and valleys in there. It's pretty smooth for an Unreal Engine 5 game especially. All right, so yeah, we're gonna just keep on going over to ray tracing. Just kind of wanted to show you the without ray tracing settings. Of course, it's more doable, but yeah, ray tracing is doable, but you got to make some pretty hefty concessions in some areas. So we're gonna do that now, and I'll be right back. Alright, so here we are. We are on medium preset with the low ray tracing enabled, and what this does is it provides global illumination, so it gives things a little bit more of reaction to light. It gives more ambiance to the scene, so it definitely improves things, as well as gives you ray traced shadows, which really helps out the contrast in this game, because a lot of times the contrast isn't the greatest, so ray tracing definitely helps with that. The only thing you're not getting is some transparency on your reflections, especially when it comes to the transparency of water. So, you know, this is a really good ray trace setting. Even though it just says low, it's doing a lot. It definitely does the most ray tracing that out of the three options that we have here. But as you can see, it definitely hurts our performance a good bit. We are on quality upscaling right now, so we're going to have to just do the ray tracing portion of this test on 50%. We're going to just have to accept that we're going to have to upscale to performance, but it still looks good. It still looks sharp. There's nothing to worry about it. I'm just saying, you know, we're for the sake of the test itself, we're going to have to do all these with performance enabled, but that still gives you 78 FPS with medium preset. So I think that, again, the high setting is where I would probably say I would play this. Personally, I think high is just like the best all-round setting for this title, and that gives you 73 FPS with, you know, a good bit of the ray tracing in there as well. Everything looks good. There's that classic stutter in this cave, but that gives you 75 FPS here with, you know, again, this is just a good setting. I like high a lot. All right, so we're going to run through it a little bit more and then maybe check out some higher levels of ray tracing just to give you a complete picture. But yeah, here we go. So 71 FPS. Let's just jump down here and go to the next level, up to very high. All right, so this is very high. That gives you 54, 69. Okay, so it's leveling out about mid 60s, low 60s. So we're not comfortably above 60, but enough to frame generate from here, and I think that would be okay. So you could do a frame generation setting from here, just layer that right on top of it, and everything would probably smooth right on out, because your PCL is right about 50 anyway. So if we come down here and check out frame generation, we're going to go 2x. So this will be 2x frame gen with that low ray tracing, and the lighting does look good. The shadows look incredibly good. The PCL dropped a little bit with that frame generation. It does enable some reflex and some you know, latency issues in the background. They've kind of removed a lot, and a lot more on this latest update does things automatically. But right here we're at 107 FPS with a 2x frame gen. This is high with low ray tracing. All right, so let's come over here and jump over to I'm sorry, that was very high. So we're going to go up to cinematic. So this is cinematic with a 2x frame gen on top of performance DLSS with low ray tracing. All right, so everything looks good. Your PCL is still around 47 milliseconds, so ray tracing is definitely dragging the system down, but frame generation is making up for it without totally screwing up your latency. So this would be a nice setting as well if you really wanted to play at that cinematic setting. So let's see what it looks like without ray tracing. Without frame generation. All right, so this is no frame generation on top of that, and that gives you a base frame rate of 55, 56. So definitely a respectable enough FPS to do that frame gen, which we saw earlier. I just kind of wanted to show what the base frame rate looked like. So it's about 60 in some places, which is nice. So this gives you the ability to play cinematic with ray tracing and do a little bit of frame gen, and you'll be all right. So really, frame generation does substantially help this title a lot. You just got to watch that latency. All right, so let's go up to that next level. So let's go medium, and let's go down to let's go to high here. So make sure we're on performance. Okay, we've got a medium level of ray tracing with a high preset. Okay, and this has proven to be a pretty nice setting through the past year of playing this. This gives you 75 FPS with very nice visuals, gives you a little bit more ray tracing, so you got some reflections now. So whenever you're near water, it tends to look a little bit more realistic and a little bit more believable. So let's come over here to this puddle so you kind of see it's like this is a pretty shallow puddle, so not the best example, but you get a lot of that bounced lighting off of the puddles, so it looks really good there. For the most part, this doesn't dramatically change what low ray tracing looks like. It just kind of like it's kind of like diminishing returns, like high to very high. Going from low to medium ray tracing is a little bit of diminishing returns, but you can still maintain a 60 FPS experience with that high preset. And this is a really good setting as well, so you get to enjoy nice ray tracing with really good looking visuals without the need to do any frame generation. But what if we pushed it more as far as the preset goes? Let's come down here and go to that very high, because at some point you're going to have to really lean on some frame generation to keep the frame rate high enough. But right here we're at 60, 61. So this is very high with a ray tracing medium. That gives you 63 FPS. So no frame gen necessary, but you could still do it. It would still be all right to try it. So let's come in here and do a little bit of frame gen. So a 2x on top of that. I like 2x just because it doesn't add a ton of latency, and it gives you plenty of performance. Really, I mean, you can go to 4x if you just want to see crazy numbers, but right here, this is just fine. So 45 milliseconds on your PCL with 100 FPS. And you're able to really enjoy the game with a lot of things like really cranked out. All right, so let's come over here and jump down and see what we got. So what else we need to do? So this is very high. Let's go to cinematic with a medium ray tracing preset with that 2x enabled. That gives you 97 FPS with 42 milliseconds on your PCL, which is really good. I really would like to see what the base frame rate is looking like on this setting. Let's come over here and check that out. So we're going to turn off the frame generation, make sure nothing too crazy happens. So cinematic medium. So this is what it looks like without any frame generation. And that's still a 60 FPS experience in some places. Now a lot of places will dip down under 60, especially in these vegetative areas, but this is still plenty to frame generate from, as we saw earlier. So this is still a pretty good setting. I would kick on that frame gen at this level and enjoy it that way. Let's see what the worst case scenario is. Let's just go all the way out and see what we can expect. Full ray tracing, cinematic, not do any frame gen right now. I just want to see how bad it is. Could be worse. I mean, 45 FPS. This is enough to frame gen from with, some caveats that you would probably need to be on a controller. I feel like you would really experience that latency a little bit too much if you were on a mouse and keyboard. So this would be a controller-only setting, in my opinion. But, for the most part, all this is still just up to personal preference. So I like to show as much as I can. Let's jump over here and just see what we can expect. All right, so let's come down here, very high, cinematic. Let's go down to that high setting. So this is high with a very high ray tracing, and that gives you back, about 5 FPS or so. So you could frame gen off this and be okay, I think, again, with a controller. So once you start enabling that very high level of ray tracing, you're going to have to start doing making some concessions. You know, like, do you want to have to use frame generation? Do you want to have to go down in your preset? So that's only a question you can really answer. But check this water out. Looks so good. Oh man, I love reflections. Ray trace reflections are so freaking badass. I mean, everything just looks so beautiful and glossy. It's amazing. So in my opinion, you know, hey, it might be worth it if you are a graphics junkie like I am. I really like to have. That's why I probably play story games the most. It's just I would really love to have that beautiful experience. I think it makes it a lot more immersive. So really, you know, right here, if you just wanted to crank it all out to the max, which is what we've basically done here, other than, you know, these settings here, I would probably go with a very high and then a medium setting here, and that would be how I would play it. I think this would give you enough ray tracing to enjoy. It gives you an experience right there at 60 FPS, so you can kick on that frame gen and just enjoy it that way. You're not totally topped out, but it's still extremely beautiful. It's a really, really pretty game, especially these natural environments like this at the beginning. So yeah, we're just going to jump over and see what it looks like with everything completely just to the wall. We're just going to go all the way out. All right, so we're going to kick on some frame gen, go to 2x frame gen, and let's see. So this was about 45 FPS base, and that gives you about 75 FPS with that frame gen kicked on. So not quite double, but, you know, doing its best. All right, so we're looking like PCL about 62. Now, if you really wanted to just smooth it all out, you could come over here and come down here and kick on that 4x and just see if that smooths it out visually, and it does. Your PCL's about 64 milliseconds, so it's still under 80, so you can still get away with it on a controller. How I would probably play this, though, would definitely be a very high preset with a medium ray tracing with maybe 2x frame gen. I think that looks pretty good, and you're not, like, you know, you're not feeling any sort of slop whatsoever in your controls. Not that I'm feeling a lot of it, but I'm just trying to think from the perspective of mouse and keyboard players. You might have a little bit of slop in there, but let's see. This is what I would do. Come in here, come in 2x. Let's go medium. Let's go very high, and I think this would be a pretty good experience right here. Yes, that gives you a PCL of 42, well under 50 milliseconds, 110 FPS, and everything looks really, really good. So, you know, if you like this kind of stuff, you know, consider subscribing. I do these videos a few times a week. Would pick a game and do a GPU run through it. Sometimes one resolution, sometimes a few. But, you know, if you're new here, welcome. If you're not new here, thanks for coming back. But as always, if you liked it, like it. If you loved it, sub it. We'll talk to you in the next one. Peace.